It's the Peng Sports Podcast, episode 40, and it's that time of year. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me silent night. Chestnuts roasting on a fire. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. It's that time of year. Is this your favorite time of year? Eggnog, hot chocolate, snowmen, not in Florida, but snowmen. Men, women, kids gather together in one home and celebrate Christmas. Some people don't celebrate Christmas. Some people eat Chinese food. But it's that time of year. It's winter time. Unless you're in Florida, because it doesn't get cold. I think the high in Tallahassee today is going to be like 70. It's not very wintry. Hopefully, it gets colder. If not, it's how it is. You will probably be listening to a beat right now. This is not Will's beat. This is Lance's beat. Lance is my cousin. We have a new intro beat. Maybe I should have said we have a new intro beat and then said it was made by my cousin, but this is the Peng Sports Podcast. We do things differently over here. It is currently 7:28 a.m., December the 1st, but you will be probably listening to this December the 2nd or later. Hopefully you're not listening to this after this week, because that's sort of the purpose of having a podcast every week. So like listening to Peng Sports Podcast episode 39 probably doesn't do you any good. There's a lot of bad takes on it. Not bad, but irrelevant takes on it. You're supposed to listen to the newest video. Stop listening. Stop living in the past, man. Week 1. No Wale. Manchester United tie Chelsea. Beat Villarreal. And they got a new manager. They got an interim and then got an interim manager. 2 interim managers. Well, now 1, but 2 at the time. And I don't think the Manchester United, Chelsea, I don't think they're too far apart. I think, to say it in college football terms, I think it's a Clemson, Alabama, maybe before Clemson reached their peaks with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. Maybe around the first year of the playoff, where Clemson was going to, Chick-fil-A bowls. But not too far off with Taj Boyd. I don't think Manchester United are that much worse. I think recruitment by Maria Granskovia, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, has maybe been a little bit better than Manchester United's recruitment. But overall, I think talent-wise, when you look at the sheet, the starting lineups, you say, oh, Jadon Sancho, oh, Marcus Rashford. If Marcus Rashford even started. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't start, which is the big news. But when you look at the sides, I don't think you're saying, oh yeah, I would take that guy 10 out of 10 times over, Jorginho's better than Fred, yes. Better than McTominay. But really, let's look at the 2 rosters, and the 2 rosters aren't too dissimilar in talent. I would say Chelsea has a slightly better roster, but not by a landslide. Let's look at the Premier League table. I want everyone to pull it up on their phones. When you have it, say amen. And if you don't, say not yet. In the name of the Lord. Now let's I'm going to do a quick rapid fire, top to bottom, of the Premier League table at this current moment. December 12th. Norwich, Newcastle played yesterday, so they have a game in hand. Know that. 1 Chelsea, 2 Manchester City, 3 Liverpool, 4 West Ham, 5 Arsenal, 6 Wolves, 7 Tottenham, 8 Manchester United, 9 Brighton, 10 Leicester City, 11th Brentford, 12th Crystal Palace, 13 Aston Villa, Everton, 14 Leeds United, 15 Southampton, 16 Watford, 17 Norwich, 18 Burnley, 19 Newcastle, 20. Chelsea in first, as I said, with 30 points. Manchester City with 29 points. Liverpool with 28 points. And then there's a tie for 4th and 5th. Arsenal, West Ham. Points-wise. Well, come on, didn't you say points don't matter? Or points matter and goal difference doesn't matter? It's the middle of the season. Towards the end of the season, they're probably not going to be too much. We're probably not going to be looking at goal differential too much. Still early stages of the season. Tottenham are, with their rocky season, are 4 points out of top 4. And they play West Ham and Arsenal, meaning they can beat West Ham. And West Ham and Arsenal are going to drop a point here and there probably. So there's a chance Spurs can still make Champions League. Wolves, back in form. In some instances, losing a coach is a bad thing. But in some instances, getting a new coach, new ideas, maybe some players got comfortable in the system. Now it's a little different. Maybe a little bit more open play. Wolves started out not too great, but it's a long season. Most of these seasons are long. And to judge someone off of the first month, September, by judging a team how good they are in September is not a fair representation. It takes time. They got a new coach. Wolves has been the one side where they've looked a good team, but they haven't been getting results. Now they're finally getting results. They've lost 1 game, I think, in the past 5 games. Wolves is a contender. Europa League position? Potentially. Yeah, they definitely make Conference League this year, I believe. Hopefully, maybe. In 6th position, they would be in a Conference League position, I believe. Unless Manchester City, Arsenal, or West Ham win the FA Cup, if I'm not mistaken. Then 2 teams go to the Europa League from the English Premier League. But Arsenal could be Champions League next year. Of course, goal differential is the only thing holding them back from being in 4th. And what's going to determine their season is how do they do against Leeds? How do they do against Everton? How do they do against Southampton? How do they do against Burnley, Brighton? Tied Brighton. But those are the games that are going to win them the season. They can lose to a Manchester United. Because Manchester United may here and there drop a point. They're getting a new coach, interim manager. There's going to be some growing pains. They can lose to Chelsea. They can lose to Manchester City. They can lose to Liverpool. But the middle table teams, they have to beat. They have to beat Leicester City. Leicester City, to most, probably is the middle table team, but right now they're 10th. They need to beat Leicester City. So what do? Do you start your guys for the big games, even though you know you may lose 4-0? but you get complimented for playing well against Liverpool in the first half. It's an interesting predicament. You know, we talk about resting players and game management or time management in the NBA. And maybe there needs to be a little bit more time management in football. But yes, man. Everton, Leeds, Southamptons, Watfords, Leicester Cities. Arsenal can win those games. I think they can make Champions League. I do. I truly do. Put all your eggs against the middle table teams. Rest players, potentially. Against the Chelseas, against the Manchester Cities. It's a different kind of game. Arsene Wenger did it in the FA Cup. But you're trying to make Champions League this year. I don't think Mikel Arteta is on the hot seat, but you don't want to get into a position with Ole, where Ole had Manchester United in a pretty solid spot. Yes, now currently they're in 8th place, if I'm not mistaken. Right? But he didn't have any, leeway anymore. If that makes sense. Mikel needs a little leeway. He makes Champions League this year. He has a job for at least 3 more years. He doesn't make Champions League. He's 8th in the league by this time next year. There's a chance he doesn't have a job. But it's interesting how to go about it, right? Talked about middle table teams, so let's talk about Everton. Tied with Leeds on points. Probably the 2 biggest disappointments of the season so far. Again, long season. They have experienced coaches, managers. So there's still a chance. If this was the NFL, okay, maybe it's time to get rid of some managers or it's time to change something. Recruitment. Leeds, they have a chance to right the ship. Everton, no. This happened. This is Everton. This is Everton Football Club. I don't expect a lot today against Liverpool. Hopefully they can make it not a 2-4, 5-0 loss. Hopefully they can make it respectable 2-0. Because Arsenal have an excuse. They're a young side. Still need to build chemistry. Still need to get some more experience. Everton, they don't really have an excuse. They don't. They need to make this game respectable. Because it's going to be a long time. It's going to be not a long time, a long 90 minutes. They have lost 4 of the last 5 and tied 1. Everton. Not a win in their last 5 games. And they are luckily in 14th spot, position, place, however you want to call it. Sheesh. Everton. I'm not crying, you're crying. Newcastle, Burnley, Norwich. Newcastle in last place, Burnley in second to last, Norwich in the final relegation spot. Burnley have 2 games in hand, so against Norwich and Newcastle. And if they win both their games, they will be at 15 points above Watford. So Burnley in good shape. I think what do I think? What do I think about Burnley? Nothing really. they got a game canceled, but they're just one of those sides. They're going to stay in the Premier League. Where is Burnley? Is it in the Midlands? Is it in London? Or outskirts of London? Question. I could look it up right now, but I'm doing a podcast. And Newcastle. Oh, Newcastle. Don't get lost in the sauce, people. Just don't get lost in the sauce. That's the word of advice for Newcastle. Don't get lost in the sauce. They're supposed to sign Hall and Coutinho, Van der Beek. No one's going to play for them in Championship. It's going to take some time. Remember the trial of success as well. Money can buy talent, but you need experience and you need chemistry. You can't buy those things. Newcastle, by maybe the end of the decade, are challenging for Champions League. Maybe by 2035, they're challenging for a Champions League position by the end of the decade in the Premier League. Maybe by 2035, they're challenging to win the Champions League, challenging for the league. But it's going to be a while, man. It's going to be a while. Premier League isn't France. It's in the French league, Liga. Liga has gotten a lot better in recent years. But when PSG rose to power, right? It was just different. You could buy a bunch of players. You can buy a bunch of players and have a chance to win the league. It's just a different league. Newcastle, are they looking, what are they doing? Are they looking to the future too much and not focus on the present? Is that why they're in 30th? Not 30th, 20th? Just a lot of semantics, I guess, that goes into it. Maybe by the end of the decade, they'll be challenging for Champions League. And I would predict the table. God, that was a smooth transition, wasn't it? And I will predict the table. No, but I'm going to be predicting the table for when I come back from hiatus. I mentioned this in the last podcast if you listen to the whole thing. Peng Sports Podcast, episode 40 will be the last podcast of the year 2021. What's your New Year's resolutions? Think about it. I'll give you a break. All right. But this is the last podcast of 2021. And before I leave, I would like to predict the table. Predictions. Most likely on American football and other sports I don't know a lot about. Like ping pong. Predictions. That will be 2022? Yeah. It'll be the 2022 table. Of the Premier League. Top four. Yes, this is predictions part 1. This is the Peng Sports Prediction Podcast Extravaganza. With predicting football and more football. No basketball. But I will say this. Golden State's not going to keep this up. They're not. They're not going to keep this up. And oh, how phenomenal, magnifique, as the French would say it, do the Philadelphia 76ers look. How phenomenal do they look? I'll throw my hands up, man. I'll throw my hands up. They don't need Ben Simmons. They don't. Sixers look good. You got Joel Embiid dropping 46 points. Go to overtime, you still lose. The 76ers battling for a playoff position It's a long season, though. It's a long season. But, goodness gracious. But the top four. And this will be the top four by the time I come back from holiday, as people overseas call it. Vacation is the word for it. I'm just saying. Like, that's the word. Holiday isn't holiday, it's a holiday. They're interesting over there in Europe. Across seas, holiday. Vacation, that's the word for it. You're on vacation. I went on vacation. Don't tell me how to spell vacation. Don't ask me how to spell vacation. But top four. Episode 41. For episode 41. Manchester City, first place. 51 points. Chelsea, 49 points in second. Liverpool with 47 points in third. And Manchester United, oh yes, Manchester United in fourth. They overtake Spurs, West Ham, Arsenal, Wolves. I'm on the Ragnick bandwagon. Manchester United, fourth place, 42 points. Everton, 29 points. And 12 points off Champions League. Everton need a Christmas miracle, man. To be contending, not in a Champions League, to be contending for a Champions League position. They need a Christmas miracle. They need to beat Liverpool. They need to win out. But it's Everton. It's Everton. And if you know, you know. That was the Peng Sports Podcast predictions extravaganza. Even though it was only 30 seconds. That was part 1. Here's part 2. I apologize to the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought that you guys were bulletproof. But she proved me wrong. Where's that from? Anyways, we are currently 97 and 81. Still a winning record. We've played a little bit over the amount of games for the MLB season. But we started off, if we were in MLB, we started out very well. We were the Mets of the MLB, and we're now still the Mets because we finished like the Mets. Season's not over. But goodness gracious, man. As I said, I am a football manager. Football manager, that's a video game. I am a football amateur. Not a manager, amateur. NFL, American football, and amateur. So, these predictions they're supposed to be wrong. Not this wrong. I think I lost 9 games last week. I went 6-9. That's a interesting. That's an interesting record. You can take the chicken out of the farm, but you can't change a chicken. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? This isn't a random... Okay, the chicken or the egg part's random, but I'm talking about Matthew Stafford. When I talk about you can take the chicken out the farm, but you can't change the chicken. Matt Stafford's not a chicken, but in this instant he is, because he's out the farm. He's out Detroit. But you can't change the chicken. I really don't like calling another person a chicken, but it's the best analogy I got. I'm just saying. It's going to be a growing process. I think the Rams, if they keep Matthew Stafford for another year, I think that is the year where teams, I guess, where the Rams, I think, are going to be good. I think the Cardinals surprise them. I think offensive lines have somewhat, I cautiously say this, have somewhat figured out a way to corral Aaron Donald. I think, I think being a cornerback in the NFL today is sort of like just a losing battle. The way teams play, the way teams have new schemes of throwing the ball. They just don't throw to wide receivers anymore. They throw to tight ends. 49ers were throwing to a fullback. They throw to running backs. Sometimes the quarterback they throw to quarterbacks. It's a new kind of football. And somewhat like baseball, I think cornerback can be somewhat being like a left outfielder or an outfielder, where it's going to be a lot of ground balls, some strikes, some fouls, may hit the pitcher, and then the flyouts are going to be here and there. Maybe get one flyout an inning, and you get probably 1, 2 to 3 more. Now you get probably one flyout an inning in a good inning. And it's sort of going to catch you off guard. I think with how offenses are built today, they tweak small things. They've always been tweaking small things in the offense, but they tweak small things. They catch you off guard. Play actions are probably run better than they've ever been ran. They got RPOs. I just think playing cornerback is sort of a losing battle nowadays. Now, why am I saying this? Because Jalen Ramsey doesn't seem as big of an impact. Have as big of an impact as he had in other years. Some people say they play more zone, which doesn't help. It's just a lot of that goes into it. And I think it's a fact, people. Players get tired. Yes, they've had a whole summer's break, but half the summer, I would say for 80% of the summer, they're working out. So their body gets a break, but it doesn't get probably a good, nice break, right? And they're tired. I think we're seeing a little bit of tiredness, fatigue with the Browns. We see fatigue every year with the Raiders. But I definitely think we're seeing a little fatigue with the Browns. The Browns, Lamar Jackson threw 4 interceptions, if I'm not mistaken. 4 interceptions, and the Browns lost that game. Now you could say the Ravens, that's what championship teams do. When the offense is lacking, the defense steps up. But I think the Browns are fatigued. I think the Rams defense is probably a little fatigued. It's a new system, new players. And there's that little factor, right? With the Cam Newtons and the Odell Beckhams. Not saying anything about the character, but it's that factor of you sort of have to cater to them, if that makes sense. Where if you sign Cam Newton, you got to start him. Even though the backup won't beat the best team in the league in some people's opinion. The Cardinals. And you saw a system that worked. Cam Newton take care of the red zone. He's able to run. He can pass it if he needs to. But you can't bench Cam Newton. You can't not throw to Odell Beckham. Shoot, you see what he does against the Packers? Scored a touchdown. And it plays in the back of your mind. I think Sam Darnold. Matt Stafford, throwing to Woods, throwing to Cooper Kupp. It's just a different feel. But I do think they needed an Odell Beckham-esque type of receiver. Do I think you can win a championship with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp? I don't know. I've found it interesting where good teams figure out the slot. And I find that very interesting. And it's not again, football amateur here. American football amateur. It's not a glaring thing, but I find it a lot of times slot receivers don't do too phenomenal against good teams, good defenses, good teams. Why do you think Tyreek Hill plays? God, I'm probably going to mess this up. The X or the Y? Why do you think he lines up outside, I should say? He doesn't always play slot. I think because against good teams, and because their offense a little bit, but against good teams, the slot gets a little... They put a good safety on you. They put a good linebacker on you. This is what I think. My personal opinion. Now, Rams 2022 are my Super Bowl favorites. I'm calling it right now. Super Bowl favorites 2022-2023 season. The Los Angeles Rams will make the Super Bowl in the NFC. This year, maybe not. Again, they're fatigued. I think teams a little like the Chiefs, have figured them out a little bit. Almost exactly like the Chiefs. I think they've both been figured out a little bit. I think teams are adjusting. And I also think the Chiefs are probably a little fatigued. The Rams are probably a little fatigued. They're going to probably rest up. Again, I don't really know what they do in the offseason, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a little bit different. Teams are probably going to be a little bit more lax on Aaron Donald because they're probably going to look at his stats and think that he's not as troublesome as people believe. The Rams may play a little bit more man. Again, it's a new defensive coordinator. It's a lot of factors that go into this. It's just not the Rams are a bad team. Or they're not even underperforming. They've lost 4 games? I just think that the Rams are an interesting team. I think they have these lofty expectations, but everyone knows. Remember the triad of success. Say it with me, people. You need what? Talent. What's the second one? Experience. Or chemistry. If you say chemistry, you're not wrong. And the third, chemistry. Talent, got it. Experience, sort of got it. Chemistry, a few players got to chemistry. But everyone knows to be a championship team, everyone's got to have chemistry. Von Miller probably doesn't know Aaron Donald's game too well. And Jalen Ramsey's not going to tell him that. Aaron Donald may talk to him, but it's going to take time. Odell Beckham. It's just an interesting thing with Odell Beckham, man. Interesting. Because I don't think there's a quarterback outside of maybe Eli Manning who's really understood how to throw to Odell. When to throw to him. Not to force it. Matt Stafford's a new quarterback. He can figure it out. But Baker Mayfield, of course, didn't really figure it out. Nothing against Baker. Nothing against Odell. It's just not a fit. Sometimes the ring just doesn't fit. You got to get it resized. Got to trade it in. But it's, again, Cam Newton, Odell factor. As soon as you get more comfortable, build chemistry, you're going to know when to throw to Odell. You're going to know when to pass to Cooper, when to pass to Robert Woods. I also believe they may get Cam Akers back. This Rams team, we're talking about the Rams a lot. This is the Rams Peng Sports Podcast, episode 40. I think they're a very intriguing team. I think the Ravens are very intriguing. We're talking about the Ravens one podcast. Maybe we're talking about them right now. Ravens. They're my favorite to make it to the Super Bowl, but goodness gracious, man. Unconvincing a little bit. Only thing is, I think they play down to the level of their competition. I do. I think they play down to the level of their competition. Now, that can be adjusted over time, but you're not going to win the Super Bowl because you're going to get got. You're going to get got by a team like the Colts in the playoffs. It's going to happen. It will happen. If the Ravens play the Colts in the playoffs right now, the playoffs start today, in Baltimore, the Colts are beating them. 100%. The Bills probably may not beat them because they're the Bills. No, it's because they are sort of in the same boat. There's a lot of teams in that boat. And that's why the Chiefs are sort of dangerous right now. Because they... Again, maybe they're fatigued. Maybe they're taking time off like LeBron does. Kawhi does. Well, Kawhi not this year. Like Steph Curry should be doing. But I'm not going to do any headcanon there. But MVP looks grand. It's just interesting, man. I'm going to say it. How we just treat players totally differently. I think it's a little different, right? I understand that. I said I wasn't going to talk basketball, but I'm talking basketball. The Warriors have the #1 record in the league, right? But Steph Curry is going for the MVP and no one's saying anything about it. Clearly he's going for the MVP. It's sort of obvious. If that was also Westbrook, I think we're saying, oh, Russell Westbrook stat padding, he's going for the MVP. I'm just saying, I think we treat Russell Westbrook different than Steph Curry. Now, do I think that it's a little different? Yes. Again, the Warriors had the best record in the West, had the best record in the league, if I'm not mistaken. But, you can look back and look at those OKC rosters when Russell Westbrook was, I'm putting quotation marks up, stat padding, when there was no one else on his team that could drop 20 points consistently. I mean, goodness gracious, people. I'm just saying. We just treat people differently in the NBA. And then we wonder why Russell Westbrook, he's not a hothead, but we think he's a hothead or stat pads. And if you think about it, it really correlates to Ben Simmons a little bit. We wonder what's the problem with Ben Simmons even though we have the answers to the test. You booed him and talked to him very disrespectfully, called him scared, said all these things, and then all of a sudden, you want him back. I think they want him back. The 76ers definitely want him back. It's clear. But anywho, I said I wasn't talking basketball, but we have to be transparent and clear. We treat people differently. And you're supposed to treat people differently. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't treat people fairly. And that's the little thing. Again, the Warriors have the best record in the West, in the league. Do I think they can keep it up? But it's different. But again, Russell Westbrook was carrying his team on his back, and they didn't have a Draymond Green on that team. I don't think Victor Oladipo at the time had made the All-Star team. And shoot, the year when Victor Oladipo left, goodness gracious, it was the year after Victor Oladipo left. I think Russell Westbrook was still in the Thunder, and then he left a year after that and went to the Rockets, if I'm not mistaken. But I do think that we need to just be a little bit more fair. Guys, I'm rambling, man. This is the best part of the podcast. Because if I went by the script, guys, we'd probably be done. But I just gotta talk about things that are on my mind. We're gonna get into the pot. We're gonna get into the predictions. Goodness gracious. Week 13 predictions. Teams are going to start to get double-digit wins. Well, just the Cardinals, because the Packers have an away week. I was about to burp, but I didn't burp. I'm gassy. But off to the Peng Sports Podcast Peng Sports Podcast predictions extravaganza, ganza. Or dos, if you speak Spanish. Predictions. Most likely on American football and other sports I don't know a lot about. Like ping pong. Predictions. Cowboys versus the Saints. Thursday Night Football. I'm going with the Cowboys. Colts, Texans. Colts. Saints are an interesting team. I think the Saints, I don't think they're tanking, but I don't think they mind it when they lose. I think they're figuring out we need some new life. Maybe get a defensive end, defensive tackle. I don't really know what this draft is strong in. I know Oregon has a dude who's fairly good. I know Michigan has a few boys, young men, boys. Not like I'm not the same age as them. I know FAMU has a leading sack leader in the FCS. I think they just need a little bit more. They need. See, that's the interesting thing about the Saints, teams like the Saints and teams like the Steelers. They're not going to go 2-15. They're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. They're going to go at worst 6-11. At worst. The Steelers are probably going to win 8 games this year, minimum. The Saints will probably win 7 to 6 games this year. They're just one of those franchises where they're not. Maybe in the past the Saints weren't like this, but now they're just one of those franchises with Sean Payton. They're not going to lose more than. They're not going to win less than, I should say, 6 games, and they're always going to have at best the 6th or 7th or 8th pick in the draft. That's at best. They're not getting top 5 picks unless they trade for them. Colts, Texans. Goodness gracious, they disappointed me last week. Vikings, Lions. Lions, they're going to get that win sooner or later. But the Vikings win this week. Buccaneers, Falcons. I'm honestly a little scared to pick the Lions. But they're going to get a win. But Buccaneers versus Falcons. Also, that may have ruined their Steelers season, them losing to the Lions. They haven't won a game since, have they? It's 2 in a row, back-to-back losses. Right? May make or break games, man. It's just interesting. When is it make or break game? You never know. Sometimes it's against the Lions, sometimes it's against the Patriots. Was that a make or break game for the Titans? That was an interesting game. Are the Patriots better than the Titans? I think right now there's only like 2 to 3 teams that can maybe beat the Patriots. And that's the Bills, the Chiefs, and the AFC, and the Ravens. Colts, I think the Colts could get them. Actually, I think the Colts could get them. The Browns may get them. The Bengals may be able to get them. I take it back. The Bengals, the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Colts are probably the only teams that can probably get the Patriots at this moment in time. Where was I? Did I say Giants versus Dolphins? Giants versus Dolphins. I was on Buccaneers versus Falcons, but I skipped the Giants versus Dolphins. Giants versus Dolphins. Dolphins win. Good win last week by the Giants, though. Buccaneers, Falcons. Buccaneers. Eagles, Jets. Eagles. Cardinals, Bears. Cardinals. I just don't like picking against the Bears. I don't like it. It's just they're one of those teams where it's just like, just one of those teams, man. Jaguars versus Rams. Jaguars. Upset win. They like to do that kind of stuff. In Los Angeles, Rams aren't going to get them with the vacation spot. The Jaguars are in Jacksonville. The weather's just as good, if not better, and the beach is better. It's Jacksonville. Let's be honest. City's bigger, less people. I mean, it's a win-win-win-win-win. Jaguars aren't going to get caught off guard by the vacation spot. Jaguars win. Chargers versus Bengals. The Bengals? The Bengals. Chargers lost last week. Again, I'll say Justin Herbert's very good. But the way we treat some players and treat other players it's obvious. Now, Jalen Hurts didn't get the criticism as he did. He didn't get the criticism last week. And it's not one of those kind of things. But if Baker Mayfield played a game like that, it would be a little bit different. A little bit, a smidgen. The criticism would be a little bit different. Just a little bit. Just saying. We treat people differently. The Washington football team versus the Raiders. I chose the Raiders, but I'm going to stick with the Raiders. Ravens, Steelers. Ravens. 49ers, Seahawks, 49ers, Seahawks. As I said last week, this is one of those seasons. Just one of those seasons. They'll be back, but it's one of those seasons. But Cardinals, Rams, 49ers. 49ers look good. 49ers are going to be the Bengals of next year easily. They're going to be an 8-win team, a 6-win team by this time. If they're not a 6-win team by now, they're going to be 7-3. The division of the year this year is the AFC North. Division of the year next year will probably be the AFC West because the Seahawks are going to be better. The Cardinals are going to be better. Rams, as I said, are my Super Bowl favorites to make the Super Bowl, at least. Super Bowl finalist favorites in the NFC. It's going to be a great season next year. This year's good. This year's really good. They're carrying football because college football, I will say it, been below par. Below par. Broncos, Chiefs. Patriots, Bills. I put the Patriots, though. Bills. I'm going with the Bills. I'm changing it right now. Bills. Bills beat the Patriots. In the heat of the moment, I'm feeling it. Bills win. because I'm going on hiatus, I will post the overall record, weeks 14, 15, and maybe 16. I mean, we may be back by week 16. On Twitter. I put all of it on Twitter. Overall record, my predictions. I may just put the teams down. I may not put Ravens versus Steelers, 49ers versus Seahawks, Bengals versus Browns. I may not put that. I may just put the teams who win. The 12 to 14 to 15 teams who win. And then, and that's it. Overall record, and then the teams that won. Alright? On Twitter. One sooner or later. But our predictions, because you're on this ride too. You're not getting off this ride. MLB. It's MLB free agency. And when it comes to sports, I have nothing else to say on that. But I figured it out, people. They're probably going to arrest me after this. But... or silence me. But I figured it out. And it's right in front of your face. The will of D in One Piece is the will of determination. That's what it means. That's what D stands for. Determination. Think about it. Goldie Roger, determined. Monkey D. Luffy, determined. What about Zoro? He's not really that determined. He wants to become the greatest swordsman, but he's sort of a go with the flow kind of guy. Whom else has the will of D? Rox D. Zebek, determined to take over the world. Blackbeard. Marshall D. Teach. The will of D means determination, or determined, however you want to say it. Garp, determined. Determined, maybe for peace. Determined potentially to reach their goals. Maybe it's a bigger picture. The theme of it is the celestial dragons are people who are lazy, want to sit on their laurels. Laurels, is that the word? Sit on their morals, or sit and marry Joa. Is that how you pronounce it? Mary Joa? Listen to a One Piece YouTuber. They know how to pronounce it. But I know what I'm talking about. And if you watch One Piece, you know what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is, they sit down lazy, don't breathe the air of other people. They want things to stay the same. But determined people, the will of D, are changers. They change things. That's what you do with determination. You're going to ruffle some feathers, as the kids say. If you're determined, that's why they are the direct opposers of the world government, because they're determined to reach their goals. I think a lot of people are celestial dragons and they don't know it, and we don't know it. There's not a lot of will of D's. I do believe this. I'm just saying, it makes sense. Everyone with the will of D, very determined. Law. Watergate. D. Law. Something along those lines. What's Law's real name? Write down in the comments. But the will of D means the will of determination. Know that. Well, that's my prediction. That's my theory. One Piece theory. It makes sense. The will of determination. The will of destiny. That doesn't make any sense when they say will of destiny. Nothing against will of destiny. They have just as much of a case to say it than I do. But I just feel like determination makes more sense. That's my theory. And remember, nice guys finish first. And mean girls don't last. Have a fun holidays. I will see you soon. Thank you for listening. Predictions will be up on Twitter. NFL predictions will be up on Twitter with overall record and just the teams that are going to win. Not the teams that are playing, just the teams that are going to win. Peng Sports Podcast, episode 40. Thank you for listening. Have a good Christmas. Have a good New Year's. Have a good start of semester. Have a good start of the third quarter. I think the third quarter may end. It should end before winter break. But have a good third quarter. If you're in high school in Duval County, I don't know how they do if they do quarters or whatever in other states or other counties. But if you're in Duval County, hopefully you finish out the quarter strong. Finals next week. For some, do well in the finals. This is Peng Sports Podcast, episode 40.